It was early morning when I arrived at the airport. The air was cool, and the city lights still flickered as people rushed through the streets. My suitcase rolled behind me as I walked toward the entrance. The automatic doors slid open, revealing a busy terminal filled with travelers. Some were saying goodbye to their loved ones. Others were checking their flight information on the big electronic boards. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. The smell of coffee filled the air. A long line of passengers waited at the check-in counter. I joined the line and glanced around. A businessman in a gray suit was typing on his laptop. A mother held her child's hand, trying to keep him calm. Nearby, a group of tourists laughed as they checked their passports. When it was my turn, I handed my passport and ticket to the airline employee. She smiled and asked me to place my bag on the scale. After a few clicks on her computer, she gave me my boarding pass. "Enjoy your flight," she said. I walked toward security. The line moved slowly as passengers placed their belongings in trays. I removed my shoes, took out my laptop, and walked through the scanner. The security officer nodded, and I gathered my things. After security, I had some time before boarding. I decided to explore the airport. Shops lined the walkway, selling everything from books to souvenirs. A cafe nearby had a long line of people waiting for their morning coffee. I ordered a cappuccino and sat by the window, watching planes take off into the sky. When my flight was called, I made my way to the gate. The airline staff scanned my boarding pass, and I walked through the jet bridge. The airplane was large, with rows of seats stretching far back. A flight attendant greeted me at the entrance. "Welcome aboard," she said with a warm smile. I found my seat by the window. Outside, the runway lights glowed softly as the sun began to rise. Passengers settled into their seats, placing bags in the overhead compartments. Soon, the flight attendants began their safety demonstration. As the engines roared to life, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The plane rolled onto the runway, and within moments, we were in the air. I looked out the window as the city below grew smaller. Clouds surrounded us, and the sky turned a deep shade of blue. My journey to California had begun. The flight was long but smooth. I watched a movie, listened to music, and even took a short nap. When the pilot announced that we were preparing to land in California, I felt a rush of excitement. I looked out the window and saw the vast coastline stretching along the horizon. The ocean sparkled under the bright sun. As the plane touched down, I could feel the tires skidding slightly on the runway before slowing to a stop. People around me started gathering their belongings. I took a deep breath and waited for my turn to exit. The moment I stepped off the plane, I felt the warmth of the California air. It was different from the city I had left behind. The air smelled fresh, with a hint of salt from the ocean. Inside the airport, I followed the signs to baggage claim. People rushed in different directions, some pulling heavy suitcases, others talking on their phones. When my suitcase finally appeared on the conveyor belt, I grabbed it and walked toward the exit. Outside, the streets were alive with movement. Palm trees lined the roads, their green leaves swaying gently in the breeze. The sun was high in the sky, casting a golden glow over everything. Cars honked as they navigated the busy streets. Yellow taxis stopped to pick up passengers. I called for a ride and waited near the curb. A man in a black car pulled up and rolled down the window. "Are you headed to downtown?" he asked. I nodded and got in. The car moved smoothly through the streets, passing tall glass buildings that reflected the sunlight. As we drove, I saw people walking on wide sidewalks. Some carried shopping bags, while others sipped iced coffee. A group of teenagers skated past, laughing as they balanced on their boards. Street musicians played guitar near a cafe, their music blending with the sounds of the city. I arrived at my hotel, a tall modern building with large windows. The lobby was cool and quiet, a contrast to the lively streets outside. A receptionist greeted me and handed me my room key. I took the elevator to my floor, feeling the exhaustion of travel settling in. When I entered my room, I dropped my bags and walked to the window. The view was breathtaking. Below, the city stretched toward the ocean, the streets glowing in the evening light. I had finally arrived in California, and my adventure was just beginning. The next morning, I woke up early, eager to explore. After a quick breakfast at the hotel, I stepped outside into the fresh morning air. The streets were already busy. People walked briskly to work. Cyclists weaved through traffic. A coffee cart on the corner served customers in a long line. I decided to walk toward the beach. The sidewalks were lined with small shops selling souvenirs, books, and clothes. A bookstore caught my eye, and I stepped inside. The scent of old paper filled the air. Shelves were stacked with novels, travel guides, and history books. A woman behind the counter smiled and asked if I needed help. We talked for a while, and she recommended a book about California's history. Back on the street, I noticed food trucks parked along the sidewalk. The smell of grilled food made my stomach rumble. I stopped at a taco truck and ordered a plate of fresh tacos. The man preparing the food moved quickly, adding spices and toppings. I took my first bite, and the flavors were incredible. I continued my walk toward the beach. The sound of waves grew louder as I got closer. The ocean stretched endlessly before me. People jogged along the shore. Children built sandcastles while their parents watched. Surfers paddled out into the waves, waiting for the perfect moment to ride back to shore. As I walked along the boardwalk, I met a man selling handmade bracelets. He had traveled across the country and had many stories to share. We talked for a while, and I bought a bracelet as a souvenir. The day passed quickly. I visited a museum, walked through a park, and watched the sunset from a rooftop cafe. The city felt alive, full of energy and endless possibilities. As night fell, I returned to my hotel, exhausted but happy. My first day in California had been filled with new experiences, friendly people, and unforgettable moments. I lay in bed, thinking about everything I had seen. Tomorrow, there would be more to explore, more to learn, and more memories to create. My journey had only just begun.